Now, I know that a fair amount of my viewers might remember my Marilyn Manson top 10 list, and some might go even further than that, remembering the songs I actually put on this list. This top 10 list was comprised from the songs I had listened to at the time of being 13 years old, and the ones stuck out to me were what landed on the list. There was also my musical taste at the time that determined which songs were going to go where and why. Because my opinion has changed, and while some songs might still be on that list, given me listening to more and more and thinking about his lyrics more and more, it's made a lot of my friends think that I ought to do a remake of my Marilyn Manson top 10 list, using the updated version as an excuse to delete my former one. Now, I don't want to do this for a few reasons. One being that my Marilyn Manson song list is a very good first video for people to watch. I think it's a good idea that my very first YouTube video be a top 10 of my favourite musical artists to date. The other reason includes that I was actually going to do a follow-up in 2014 to my Marilyn Manson songs, but I chose not to because I didn't prepare, and I didn't have time to fully make it. But the most important is that my top 10 list has been criticised as being irrelevant now. But honestly, I think that's a good reason to keep it up. In the video, I even stated that my list was eventually going to become inapt when my opinions and rankings changed, and when Marilyn Manson produces more music beyond what was released at the time I recorded that. And for that reason alone, I think the video's a good indulgence of the mind of which I had at the time. The only criticism, which seemed remotely poignant, was that I didn't go into as nearly as much depth, and that the analysis skills that I used to have are now more advanced as I've gotten older and had the time to greater understand his music and interpretations, and be able to explain that without seeming clueless. This video isn't a top 10 list. This video is an analysis of what I deem to be Marilyn Manson's most philosophical song ever written, and one that's definitely my personal second favourite song, only being beaten by my original choice, Target Audience. Now, to put the Reflecting God into context, it was the climax song of Antichrist Superstar, a concept album inspired by the teachings of Friedrich Nietzsche. Since Nietzsche was a German philosopher, it would show that philosophical ideas would be thrown into Antichrist Superstar, and the song The Reflecting God is no exception, being the song I feel has the strongest philosophical ideas in the album, and in general out of all of Manson's work. The song is based off an excerpt from Nietzsche when he said, "God is dead, and we have killed him." Friedrich Nietzsche's views and beliefs often get misinterpreted and confused by an audience, so let me explain what he's really getting at here. In this excerpt, Nietzsche was speaking in metaphor. The most common meaning behind the word God would be the literal deity which exists and acts upon the world in which we inhabit. In Nietzsche's context of the word God, God is an idea that's held by many societies of the course of centuries. Nietzsche is saying that the idea of God is bastardized and strayed from its initial intent and has become unrecognizable. In society, many people, especially political figures, have used God as an incentive to justify selfish things such as committing genocides, declaring wars, when the idea wasn't meant to be used in that sense. God is dead, and we, the human species, killed it. Marilyn Manson understands this, and complements Nietzsche's ideas in this song. His lyrical content delves into concepts such as the Übermensch, a philosophical teaching by Friedrich Nietzsche, looking for a god and introspecting, and realizing that he finds nothing but himself because he is the creator of the world with what's inside of his mind. In this song, the Worm, a character from Antichrist Superstar, rejects the Christian ideology and brings up the important point that without death, life would lose all its meaning. Death gives life its overall purpose. It gives you a reason to wake up in the morning and do things because you have such a short time to live your life. Death is the root reason you feel all these positive emotions. Knowing that you're going to die and accepting that is the reason why you'd want to do things with your life. Knowing that your friends and family are going to die gives them such a cherished meaning, because they're only alive for a limited time, and true appreciation of someone comes in knowing that and cherishing their existence. Marilyn Manson hit the nail on the head by starting off his song with the line, "Your world is an ashtray," and how we're the cigarettes that burn and turn into ashes. It fits with a theme that we're merely things that we put individual meaning onto. But that's not the only thing Manson was referring to. The beginning lyrics criticize the world as being one about death, and that the more you go through pain, the greater your suffering gets, and how people can often get blinded by their worldview, and they're neglecting so much of what their life can be. This point is important to death giving life its meaning because it goes both ways. Either you accept that someday we're gonna die and so are your loved ones, some of them even dying while you're still living, or you drive yourself insane with it and allow yourself to lament and suffer and grow into this self-inflicting pain machine. The more you cry, your ashes turn to mud. The more you let your pain and suffering negatively toy with your life, the more you're muddying the positive significance to your own life. Life no longer has a good meaning when you drive yourself crazy over the death and suffering, because we all know going through and overcoming pain is what makes us strong in the end, not wallowing about it, despite that being a byproduct near impossible to ignore. It reminds me of the phrase that if we were to let the deaths of every human being affect us on a mutual level, we'd all just be suicidal, reckless human beings, and that it's not wrong to not cry over a death and to show strength instead. I believe in the idea that when someone we love dies, we should celebrate their death. Not in the sense that we're happy that they're dead, not in the traditional meaning of celebrating one's death. We would celebrate them as a human being, as someone we loved, and grow happier that these great human beings were able to influence us in such a positive way and make us feel emotions in such an extreme manner. These great human beings made us feel. The true death you should lament, or a better word could be pity, are the bad people. The good people deserve to be praised and given attention to in a positive light for the great things they've given us, and the bad people are the ones that you should look down on and pity for living such a pathetic life. Marilyn Manson says his world is unaffected because he doesn't believe in sin. There is an exit, and it's in your mind. It's all about letting go, and once you stop being affected by the guilt and shame society can cause you, you can become the god to yourself. You can finally look in the mirror and see yourself as the creator of the world around you. You're the one who develops these experiences, and you're the one who drives the course of your life. After all, we're all made in God's image. This song promotes the idea of being a free man, and not needing a higher power or using Christianity as the purpose for your morality. It's often been argued that atheists are bitter and cruel people because Christianity is supposed to be where your morals come from. Without Christianity, what morals do you really have? That's a notion Marilyn Manson rejects and turns around on them. He questions the idea of using a crutch and collectivist thinking as a replacement for thinking for yourself. You shouldn't have these morals and beliefs because an authority figure, God, holds these values. You should be able to come up with your own reason for believing these ideas. Ultimately though, I'd have to argue that my favourite lyrics written in this song would be, "You'll understand when I'm dead." People like Bill O'Reilly saw this as a thing that kids could misconstrue when it's actually a cleverly written critique on American culture only caring about the ideas behind someone once they've committed a mass homicide. That's when their motives are interesting, which proves the point, you'll understand when I'm dead, because that's the only time they want to look into it. Before these kids meant nothing to the world. One could say nothing more than cigarettes that could be burned and thrown away once they're finished. But human beings become interesting once they're dead, once they grab the attention of the media. Bill O'Reilly may see this as something kids can misconstrue, but I think it shows that it's not Marilyn Manson who thinks this way, especially in the context of the song. This is an obvious jab towards a society that would only focus on the motivation and thought process of another human being once they're dead or have done something attention-grabbing. The reflecting God's message can apply to that interview with Michael Moore. Manson brought up how nobody listened to these kids, the Columbine shooters, and that he would have done exactly that if he were to be able to. They're a good case of that. Who gave a fuck about what they thought on an introspective level, until they tried to cause a massacre on the same level as the Holocaust? All in all, The Reflecting God is a great song, questioning the values of a society that dwells on the deaths of other human beings and lets it negatively control their lives and also be the only reason they care about a person to begin with. It's a great homage to the German philosopher that holds these ideas, and pays tribute to these ideas in an industrialized, kick-ass way.